All right, it is time for Damn Okay, presented by Under Armour.
I'm okay. Damn. I'm okay. Yeah, no, I mean, yes, I'm okay. The legal gambleizing. Oh, baby. I am Chris Simms. I'm okay. Damn. Okay.
All right, we've given love so far to Joe Burrow. We've given love to Josh Allen. We've given some love to Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. How have we not given love to Aaron Rodgers already? They win again. The Green Bay Packers have done it again. A couple touchdowns in the second quarter to Davante Adams. He goes over 100 yards again. He only did have 26 in the second half, but they didn't need him. They hung on to win 24-22. We'll get into the Browns and their strategy in this game because I think there are a lot of interesting questions there and some second guessing. But have we gotten to the point that when Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams want to take over a game at any point, they can do that?
Yes, but we got to get to the point where they're willing to do it more or more aggressively. Like that's what worries me about the Packers. We've kind of seen this, throughout the year where, yeah, they can control a game, but they get ultra passive and, play simplistic on the offensive side and try to just manage the clock and manage the game that way. And, the other team, of course, is desperate. So they're going to do some crazy things. They're going to take a chance here and there. And they get totally cold on the offensive side of the ball. So that's what worries me a little bit about the Packers. We've seen this a few times this year where, yeah, it seems like they're commanding the football game, but now commanding the game, they've taken the foot off the gas pedal a little bit, and they let another team hang around and almost beat them. Again, Rodgers, Adams, special. We know that. Baker Mayfield, some of those mistakes he made in the first half, as soon as he threw that first interception, I looked at my little boy and I went, oh, here we go. This is going to be Rodgers, bing, bum, boom, boom, touchdown. I guarantee it. And, of course, that's what happened, and he got in a rhythm that way. The Browns don't do anything to take people away. That's my issue with the Browns a lot of the times. Now, I don't know what they did in the second half to slow it down. I do think it was probably more Packers slowing it down than probably the Browns game planning, doing something differently. But, yeah, the Browns are one of those teams, Ahmed, that drives me crazy. It's just like, this is what we do. We play this is what we do. Yeah, okay, that's great. But, it's not always going to work against these great quarterbacks and some of these systems that have answers against it. Good win by the Packers. But I'll still stand to where I say, like with the Packers in general. First off, they got a little lucky, in my opinion. I do think that was pass interference on the last interception by Baker Mayfield. I do. And then I think the other thing I go back to, I don't know, and maybe I say this too much. I just don't know if the Packers are great. I don't. Can they really get to the Super Bowl? I don't know if I really believe that. And I love Aaron Rodgers, and I'm rooting for that. I'd love to see Rodgers versus Mahomes or Rodgers versus Josh Allen. I'd love it. You know that. But I'd still get back into, I don't know if they're dominant in any area on their football team other than when Rodgers has his hand on the ball and they're being aggressive. And that's kind of not always their approach on the offensive side of the ball. And I think that's what scares me about them, Ahmed.
Well, record-wise, they're the most dominant team in football right now, 12-3. And I think that's the thing for me, because everyone sees it, right? A lot of these games have been close.
Yep. And
they've relied on Aaron Rodgers in a lot of the games. But as we've seen with other teams that we think are pretty good, those close games are close losses a lot of times. We've seen Tennessee lose games. We've seen Kansas City lose games. You're like, how'd they lose that game?
Yeah, right.
We've seen Dallas and the Rams and Tampa lose those games where it's like, yeah, the Packers are maybe not putting teams away like we'd expect, but they're winning those games. And
I know. And it's still one guy.
I get the argument.
Your point's real. Point's real. I hear what you're saying, 100%. Do they have a dominant run game, though, to close out a game when they're in the lead against one of the NFC elite teams when we get into the divisional and the NFC championship game? I don't know. Is their defense good enough to stop another team if they have a lead in the fourth quarter? And stop them. I mean, we saw Nick Chubb and company just run the ball at will on them there in the second half. I mean, at will, just gashing them. 10 yards, 5 yards, 10 yards, 15 yards. I mean, whatever they wanted. So that's what worries me about them a little bit. Again, yeah, winning these close games, it's all cool. It's great. Oh, it was Baltimore and Huntley, It was, the Bears a few weeks ago spotting them a big lead. There's just too many of that. I don't know if you're going to get away with that in the playoffs against the better teams in football. And teams that I still look at and go, I look at the Bucs and the Cowboys healthy and, some of these other teams in the NFC where I just go, I think they have more talent than the Packers. Again, can you get to the Super Bowl and win it just through execution and we're not going to mess the game up? I don't know. That's very tough. I've really only seen one team in the history of the sport really do that. That's the New England Patriots. They're the only team I've really seen be able to do that. Other than that, everybody else, they got to make plays. They got to have some dominance on either side of the ball. And I'm sorry to be a little bit of a hater. I guess I sound like one. But these are my concerns. And he still is my favorite quarterback. And I'm saying it as a fanboy of him more than anything.
Yeah, no, but if those concerns are legitimate, then that makes a pretty good case for Coach of the Year for Matt LaFleur, and we've talked about that a few times on this pod and the Peacock show as well. The current odds, this is according to PointsBet here, Pete. The current odds are, it looks like LaFleur is the favorite, plus 110. Frank Reich is plus 350, so he's second choice. Zach Taylor is the third favorite with Bill Belichick fourth. Cliff
LaFleur
has fallen off a cliff in that whole thing. So, yeah, I mean, that would make the case, right? If you really, truly believe, like, they don't have the elite weapons of everyone else, but they could possibly finish with the best record in the NFL. Maybe this is the year finally for Matt.
It seems like it might be falling in place here. With the Cardinals kind of falling on their face here, the Patriots losing 2 in a row. Yeah, the one mainstay is the Green Bay Packers. And LaFleur, like we've talked about a lot, doesn't get the credit he deserves. He's got a good offensive mind. He understands how to manage games for the most part. Like I said, I wish he was a hair more aggressive in some of those situations. But, yeah, again, it's a good offense. I don't look at it and go, oh, my gosh, there's stars everywhere or weapons everywhere like some of the other better teams in football that are in the conversation with the Packers for that best team in the sport. Nor the defense, it's good. It's really well coached. I don't think it's great. It's not dominant. It's not. There's some good players splashed in, with a bunch of solid good players. But I don't know if it's, again, dominant. Do I think they're going to be able to make plays like maybe the Cowboys on defense or the Bucs can on defense or the Chiefs can on defense or even the Cardinals who are struggling lately? Again, throughout the whole year, they've made a lot of plays. No. So I guess that's where I worry about the Packers when it comes January.
Yep, that's up to Matt LaFleur to figure out potentially the Coach of the Year. One thing on the Browns before we move on to the next game.
Yeah, what do you want to hit here?
From M. Smudge, 1984. Why did Stefanski keep the ball in Baker Mayfield's hands when Nick Chubb was the right call?
Well, I guess he's, referring to the end of the football game?
The second half, I think, Baker Mayfield's throwing 4 picks. It seems like they're running at will on the Packers defensive line.
Yeah.
It seemed like Nick Chubb couldn't be stopped. And so do you think they made the wrong call by moving away from him at the end of the game?
It was I got to go back and kind of look at that situation again a little bit and dissect it that way. Again, he got a lot of carries in the second half. I don't even know. How many yards rushing did he have in the second half? He probably came close to 100 in the second half, right? Because the first half, that's where I think Stefanski made the mistake. And you've heard me say this all year. The Browns' run game is special. I think they need to do more around it and just go all in on the run. But here, let me get to So, all right, so they were giving him the
38 first half, 92 second half.
Right, so they were giving him a steady dose there in the second half. They certainly were. It's 2-minute warning. Again, they got the ball. They're on their own 29-yard line, right? I know they have, I believe, all their timeouts at that point, so they didn't need to throw the ball every play. But again, I understand them throwing the ball more than not there. I do. Here, let's break down the plays. 2-minute warning, Nick Chubb off the right guard for 10 yards. Then it's Nick Chubb off the left tackle for 4 yards. Now we're down to 1:22. He passed incomplete to Njoku. And then they pass short left to Nick Chubb on a 3rd and 6. It gets them the first down. And then it's incomplete pass. Now at this point, we're at 59 seconds, right? So, again, they do have 3 timeouts. I understand that. But I don't think you're looking to run the ball at a steady dose here. You're trying to maximize opportunities to get in. We'd like to get inside the 20-yard line and maximize the amount of plays we have in right there. And to me, you're in danger of losing that if you're running the ball still too much around midfield. So I'm not going to second guess it. I think they kind of got screwed over with the pass interference. Again, it's another piece of evidence where it's interference all game on that play, but now inside 2 minutes we don't call it, and I don't like that from the NFL right now.
I think some of it speaks to the concerns for Browns fans on Baker Mayfield and where he stands right now as a quarterback that can lead this team, and certainly has had injuries, and who knows how injured he's playing right now. And we'll let the next couple of weeks play out, and that'll be a discussion in the offseason, I'm sure, about the quarterback of the Cleveland Browns. The quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys was a discussion last week on our pod, Chris, and apparently Dak Prescott heard that you do not want to give him comeback player of the year right now, that you would give that to Nick Bosa.
Seriously.
Because he goes out on your program, Sunday Night Football, and torches Washington 56-14, the final score. This game was over in the first quarter and a half. It was like, honestly, it got to the point where I was like, they could score 100. I was like, the Cowboys might score 100 in this game if they really kept the foot on the pedal. Just complete domination against a defense that, has played okay lately. What did Dak and the offense show you in that game, Chris?
Well, Dak was back to closer to the form we saw earlier this year. Again, we didn't come away going, man, how did he missed that throw there? Oh man, that was a big throw on that drive. I can't believe he missed that. And it was on point throughout. Again, I think one of the things I look at more than anything is when they kind of just threaten you with a little run game early on. And you've heard me say, I wish their passing game was a hair more creative. It's a little basic. But when they get a little bit of line of scrimmage movement, we're running the football, it just opens everything up. And a team like Washington, who's, of course, down players on the defensive side of the ball, once they see that type of running, they got to put guys in some bad positions and one-on-one matchups, and they just tore them up, let alone, they couldn't do anything on the offensive side of the ball either, and we're just getting completely overwhelmed. As good as that Cowboys offense was last night, and they were good, and Prescott was efficient, I still came away from the first half of the game, because that's when it was over, after the first half, going, man, the Cowboys defense is like, they're game wreckers right now. They are. It's gone to a whole nother level here. Their defensive line is capable of taking over football games and ruining it. We've seen that in multiple weeks now, to where I went to Dallas, I went from early on in the year going, Dallas can win the Super Bowl, to, Dallas a pain in the butt. You don't want to see them coming into town in the playoffs. To the last few weeks, we gone, Dallas can go back to the Super Bowl. No doubt about it. 100%. Again, the offensive line's still not totally healthy with Tyron Smith out, but like we talked about last week, Ahmed, the defensive line's so special, and they got some good cover guys at corner to where they don't have to cover for long with that defensive line. And if the offense can kind of just continue to execute a little bit and run the ball, like I said, it's going to make them almost unstoppable on the offensive side of the ball, because they're just going to get too many favorable matchups in the pass game off of it.
So maybe that's the answer to the question from Keji999 here. He says, what the F happened to Taylor Heineke? What the F happened to the WFT quarterback? Was it just the Dallas Cowboys defense?
Well, yeah. Taylor Heineke, again, as anybody has listened to me, he's a good player. He's a low-level starter, borderline. He's really what he is. He's a great backup. That's what I want. If I was going to build a team, I'd go, man, I'd love to have Taylor Heineke as my backup. I'd pay him $7-8 million just to be a backup. If you got a good team, because okay, my team's good. The starter gets hurt, he can come in and do a few things that way and help our team get over the hump. But he's not the type of talent where if the game gets off the rails a little bit, that he can make plays to carry your team. Again, I know he's got great moxie and, he's got some playmaking ability too. I know he has that, but it's nothing about his game is elite. It's really about, hey, he's a good athlete. He's got a solid arm. He knows how to play the game, but not going to do things special or pull your team out of a hole when they're having a bad night like last night. But yes, in his defense, completely overwhelmed. Come on. It was just like the first game around like 3 weeks ago. Washington offensive line just absolutely got blown off the ball in the run game, pass game. It didn't really matter.
Yeah, Trayvon Diggs had another interception, his 11th on the season, most by an NFL player since 1981. Micah Parsons got a sack, and there was a fight. It was Washington versus Washington. Jonathan Allen and Darren Payne. What'd you make of that? That was a pretty significant punch thrown.
That was like a real fight. Listen, you get in scuffles.
Right?
Yeah, you get in scuffles on the sidelines a lot. I mean, that happens. We know that. But, like, that was, let me throw a haymaker and knock this dude out, all right? So that's where that was real. That was a different fight.
Where did they both go? Alabama?
They both went to Alabama. Yep, they were both first-round picks in consecutive years for the Washington football team. Allen, of course, is a stud. Daron Payne is really damn good, too. More of a run-stuffer type of guy, right? Allen can kind of do everything. But this is where I'll say, and, you know, what Daron Payne did was completely wrong. That's a no-no in the NFL world. An absolute no-no. And I got no problem with Jonathan Allen throwing a right hook to his head after doing that. You don't touch another grown man's head and put your finger on his forehead to make a point and push it out of the way. I don't care who it is. You do that to anybody in football, you're going to get in a fight or you're going to get in a confrontation. You are. I messed around and did it with a guy named Adam Hayward in Tampa once, Ahmed, and I was joking around and like being a smart ass in the hallway and kind of put my finger right on his forehead like that. He flipped the out. He got in my face, and he was ready to whoop my ass, and he would have whooped my ass. Adam was tough as hell, special teams, linebacker, 250, jacked. Like, I had no chance. I was so glad when other defensive players came and pushed him away to break it up because I was like, oh, God, I'm going to get killed by this guy. So you don't do that. And even though I was joking around, you don't do it when it's a heated moment on the sideline. That was a no-no, and they're going to have to figure that one out because that's not going to just go away today when they walk back in the facility and go, oh, yeah, no big deal. It's just heat of the moment. That was more deeply rooted than your normal sideline scuffle.
Your best argument when you got into a fight with a teammate is like, why would I try to do that? I was obviously joking. I would never try to fight you. And they're like, that's true. Well, good point.
Well,
like,
I think I said something like that. I was like, dude, I'm just like messing around. But he did not want to hear it, and he did not want me touching his head like that.
Let's do this on the pod because, Paul Burmeister played college football and had a tryout in the NFL, right?
Yeah.
Did he have a tryout or played?
Yeah.
Yeah, in training camp with the Vikings. All right. Put your finger on his head Wednesday and see what happens. Just like see what happens if his instincts kick in.
Okay. I'll do that to him. I'll tell him it's from you. No problem.
Because I know I would say do it to me, but I know you would do that. No problem. Like what am I doing? I'm not doing. I breathe on you with my bad breath. Maybe that's all I can do.
Yeah. Washington's done though. Poor Washington. It was a lot they had to overcome this year. They fought hard. They made a comeback. That was all good. But between COVID, short week, all those issues, playing one of the hotter teams in football, they were just compromised last night. How many bootlegs or little play action easy completions that Prescott throw in the first half, or just guys that were one-on-one and there's no William Jackson on the other side against a lesser corner because he was out of the game. Bam, easy completion. It was just too easy all night for Dallas. They're rolling.
Yep, Washington, a playoff team last year, probably not going to make it this year, although I guess they still have some sort of mathematical chance of that happening, but there really is no chance. No. Last year, they did play the Buccaneers in the playoffs, and the Buccaneers got a big win over the Panthers, 32-6 was the final score, and we're going to give a damn okay to Jordan Whitehead. 7 tackles on the defensive side here. That was a team high, tied for a team high. Had an interception, 3 passes defense. So a team that's been decimated by injuries on the offensive side here within the last week. The Buccaneers get a convincing win over Carolina, who are done now. But you got to give some credit to the Bucs, right? I mean, Tom Brady was able to get that offense and find a couple playmakers and make them look like at least somewhat copies of Evans and Godwin and Fournette out there.
Yeah, well, I think we get back to it kind of speaks to how talented they are as a football team. And sometimes I think even they forget about the aspect of like, wait, we have this big dominant offensive line that was a big reason of why we got to the Super Bowl last year. Why don't we run them? You know me. I sound probably like a broken record to some people out there. I think the Bucs are at their best when they do that style of football rather than Brady and the shotgun and everything there. I think they're more susceptible to being upset in the shotgun, we're going to throw the ball every play with Brady mode than they are when they get in 2 tight end sets, Cameron Brate, Gronkowski, they run the ball, and then Brady can feel protected off of those formations and strike downfield. That, to me, is when they're really dangerous, and that's what they got back to a little yesterday. They had to because of like what you said. They were down some weapons. They didn't have a ton of receivers they could trust. So it was a 2 tight end smash mouth. Vaughn breaks the big run early when the game was kind of in a stalemate. And then Jordan Whitehead, you brought up, him being back in the lineup on the defensive side, that's a big deal. He's a really damn good player who does a lot out of that safety position for them. He can come down and kind of play linebacker and nickel and deep safety, and he can do it all. And he's a great tackler. And that was where the game turned around, was his interception. Not that it was like, not that I felt like, oh, man, Carolina was going to win the game. But Carolina looked like they had a decent game plan, went down on that first drive, got a field goal, had a few good quarterback design runs again. There they are at midfield. And I don't know what Cam Newton was thinking. I mean, he was getting hit, and he tried to, jump as he was getting hit and throw the ball over the middle to, an under route on the outside, and, of course, got nothing on it. And it was basically like a hook shot in basketball, and it was an easy interception for Jordan Whitehead. And really from that point on, the game wasn't the same. Bucs got the field goal, right? And Bucs got the field goal. I think Sam Darnold led them down to a drive to make it 10-6. But then the Bucs kind of controlled the game from there on out, and it was just kind of domination or slow death for the Carolina Panthers from that point on.
Yeah, certainly made it easier for Tom Brady and the Bucs to make some plays because they had Antonio Brown back, first game back from the suspension. They were using him a lot in the first half.
He was amazing.
In the second half.
Yeah,
ended with 15 targets, second most this week in the NFL. 10 catches on his first week back after suspension. What do you think, Chris? I mean, a terrible message to the kids, right? Bad message to the kids that Antonio Brown's back out there doing this.
I'm not mad. Hey, this ain't a sport for the kids. This is a grown-ass man sport. So, again, this is you. Hey, I know we talked about this a little last week, and I know some people are like, oh, you gotta teach them a lesson. What? None of those guys in that locker room want you to teach them a lesson. They want to win the Super Bowl. So their lesson would be, hey, we're better with him. Bring him the back so we can win a Super Bowl. And, they're probably two, again, where everybody, I understand. Listen, I'm not the biggest Antonio Brown fan. Even what he said after the game yesterday, I don't want to answer it's all drama questions. Well, you created the drama, man. Wherever you go, there's drama. So you can't be mad that people want to ask you drama questions when you create the drama. Yeah, he's not my favorite, but I know in football locker rooms, he is one of the favorites because of his work ethic, attention to detail. He's a psycho preparation guy like Brady. So the team sees that, and they're all in for that. They are, and they've gotten to be around him and understand how much he loves the sport. So, yeah, even though they said one mistake and you're done, okay, they've had a year of evidence to go, wait, the guy's a little different than we thought when we got him in here. And we're not going to just sacrifice the Super Bowl to teach him a lesson. Yeah, well, the two guys that you wanted to teach a lesson or the public wanted to teach a lesson to, they're a big part of why the Bucs won yesterday. Right? I mean, they helped the team. And again, it goes back to with Antonio Brown, and he can do everything. He can run the Chris Godwin over the middle, Julian Edelman stuff. And then he's strong enough and fast enough to where when they run the ball and they start to see single coverage on the outside, he can beat people one-on-one, and Brady just goes, well, he's better than that guy, and I'll throw a strike, and it's as simple as that. And that's where they're going to be tough to beat. And I'll be interested here going forward, Ahmed, if they don't get into this little offense more. I want to see where they go from here. If they're going to stay in this little run game underneath the center, two tight ends, a little bit more than what we saw when Brady was really tearing it up maybe in the middle of the year with four wide receivers and just, unstoppable passing game. I think they're more dangerous playoff-wise when they play this style.
There was one stat that I was looking up on Next Gen Stats. The fastest from snap to throw last week in the NFL was Tom Brady and the Bucs, 2.22 seconds. And so a week after getting hit in the pocket and taking maybe more hits than he wanted to, what do you know? They were throwing it quicker than any other team in the NFL, and a lot of those going to Antonio Brown. And I you know what? I agree with you with Antonio Brown. People say it's not a good lesson for the kids. I was like, it is a good lesson for the kids. You need to learn at a young age that if you have a lot of talent in one area, people will put up with a lot. But the moment you no longer have that talent,
yes,
you're screwed.
No doubt.
I think that's okay. That's a good lesson for kids to learn. Yeah, as long as you have an elite talent, you're going to be okay. The moment you lose that talent, you're screwed.
You're right. I mean, listen,
immediately.
That's a fact of life. It doesn't matter what business you're in. I mean, we could talk around going around NBC here, or I could go back to Bleacher Report, or we could go to Merrill Lynch or Goldman and Sachs or whatever. the biggest earners in those places get away with more. I mean, period. You know, the top doctor at Columbia Hospital, he's probably late for more appointments than the guy that's the lower level guy because he's just like, I'm the fucking man. I'll be there when I get there. Yeah, that's the way the world works. Exactly right. Yeah. And you're right. When you're elite at something, you get away with a few things every now and then. And that's Antonio Brown's.
But when you lose that talent,
he's going to learn some lessons.
Dick, then you're done.
He's going to learn some lessons.
If you're a nice guy.
Right.
Yeah, if you're a nice guy, guess what? You might have a career after your talent's gone.
That's right.
I think that's a good lesson for a lot of kids to learn, and maybe I'll teach my kids that. Like, are you good at anything? Are you elite at anything?
Yeah.
No, then you better be super nice to people.
Yeah. Don't be
that's how I've gotten to where I am.
That's right.
Yes, that's how I've gotten in my life.
I hear you there.
Do you have a lot of talent? No, I'm nice to people. All right, we'll keep you around. Aaron Donald was not nice to. Historically has not been nice to a lot of people that he plays against, and that was the case again yesterday against the Minnesota Vikings. Will give the damn okay to Aaron Donald as the Rams get the hard-fought victory. And maybe Donald was mad, just like Dak Prescott was mad that you dismissed him in the comeback player of the year talk. And Donald came out because we didn't really talk about him as a leading candidate and defensive player of the year. 5 tackles, 3 for a loss. He had a sack, a couple quarterback hits, forced a fumble. He has what is he now? He's the 3rd choice, Pete, according to PointsBet there. 3rd choice, still behind Micah Parsons and TJ Watt. Aaron Donald, is he making a late charge for defensive player of the year, Chris?
He's making a charge. I mean, I don't think it's going to get him there, right? But, like, I do feel like ever since we talked about him 2 weeks ago, like he came out in that Arizona game and was like, hey, you, everybody. You remember me? I mean, from the first play of the game, I think he ruined, like, one of the first plays of the game with a sack in that game. So, yes. And he's been playing some really good football here the last few weeks. There's no doubt. We've seen the Rams again. Some of the star players have shown up in some big moments. There's something about that Rams game yesterday I guess I like and I don't like. I guess, of course, the game was inconsistent. Matt Stafford and some turnovers were bad. I mean, 3 interceptions, 2 of them led to 10 points. One was, a tip pass over the middle, and definitely tight there that gives the Vikings a touchdown when you're kind of in control of the football game at 13-3 to start the third quarter. But either way, I still think there were some things about the game I like. The defense showed some moments of being dominant. They did do that. And even, with Stafford's first interception, which was also backed up, held the Vikings to a field goal. They've had shown moments of being like, wait, we can clamp down and stop you completely here. They are making plays. Offensively, we saw the run game again, which was good, no doubt about it. But, yeah, Stafford's got to be careful. That game got closer than it should have been, in my opinion, just the way it looked. And that's one game that I want to go back and watch and just get a little bit better of a feel for. I know that he went off with Cooper Kupp in the fourth quarter. I felt like the Rams were always in control of the game watching it yesterday, but just kept f***ing it up a little bit and letting the Vikings hang around.
Yeah, they needed that punt return, 61-yard punt return in the middle of the game. That gave them a 10-point lead, and it was still close at the end. I think because I'm a Matt Stafford apologist that I think it was his worst game as a Ram, but that last drive to ice the game.
Yeah.
There were 3 big third down conversions there, a couple to Kupp, that it was like, okay, when they needed him to make the plays at the end of the game, he was able to make those plays. And maybe that's just because I love Matt Stafford, but it seemed like we've seen that before in Detroit where it's like at the end of the game, man, that's the best Matt Stafford that you'll see.
Yeah, really, you're right. The last drive, even the drive before that, right? Or maybe it was 2 drives before that where it's 20-13. Minnesota's made it a 1-score game, and they go right down the field, and he makes some throws to Cooper Kupp. The drive ends with a touchdown pass to the back right corner to Odell Beckham Jr., right? That was where you went, right. Like, he'd already thrown his 3 interceptions, and he went, all right, here we go. He's got his rhythm back. He's got his confidence back. Again, the Rams, I'm not going to put them in the class right now of, like, where I look at them and go, oh, man, they're dominant, like Kansas City and maybe the Dallas has been here the last few weeks. But it's certainly better. It is. And it's close to showing signs of some dominance. And if they get a few of these guys back on defense healthy, I'm interested to see what they can be. But nonetheless, again, I mean, they went a week without practicing. People got to remember these things. Barely practiced last week. Short week. Tuesday game against the Seahawks. Emotional against a division rival who had their backs against the wall. Short week, go to Minnesota. That's not always easy. Sometimes you got to remember, can't expect teams to always play their best football in those type of circumstances. That was a big win for them on the road. It's never easy to win in Minnesota in that environment. And like you said, let's not take credit away from Stafford and McVay for doing that.
Yep, he was able to find Cooper Kupp enough throughout that game, and at the end of the game, Kupp now currently on pace to tie Michael Thomas's receiving record with 149 catches in a year and break Kelvin Johnson's receiving yards record by a single yard. Now, he does get an extra game, so we got to factor that in. But would you like to add to the groundswell of, hey, maybe we should be talking about Cooper Kupp and the MVP talk?
I think he deserves to be in the convo, sure. I think Matthew Stafford deserves to be in the convo too, to a degree. But yesterday hurt that shot pretty much.
Yes.
But
yeah,
I don't. No, I still think I would be more on the Rodgers, Jonathan Taylor, and even after yesterday, and if they win the AFC East, I'd probably put Josh Allen in front of Cooper Kupp too. As amazing as it's been, there's no doubt. Again, just out of Cooper Kupp, that year, you're talking about with Calvin Johnson, how many receptions did he have? I would imagine they were far less than what Cooper Kupp's going to end up with here. What do you know that? Right. Do you have that stat in front of you?
I don't know what they were. No.
All right.
Don't have
Pete's going to look that up.
Yeah,
I would let him know
Pete's
that.
Looking.
So I would go I don't think this year's as impressive as Calvin Johnson. He got 122 receptions, and right now Cooper Kupp's on pace for 150 or 149?
150 about, yeah.
Yeah. I do think it's more impressive than the Michael Thomas year. I do. Michael Thomas, how many yards did he end up with that year? He got 148, Pete.
Oh, man. We got
Pete's
Pete all over Pro Football
Reference. That would be interesting, too. To me, my memory says Cooper Kupp's year is way more impressive than Michael Thomas, who caught a bunch of 5-yard slants over the middle, and I felt like shorter routes, but I could be wrong there.
1725 for Michael Thomas. Those were the yards.
Well, that's better than I thought.
So he's on pace. Cooper Kupp's on pace for another couple hundred more, but an extra game regardless. And I agree with your point too, again, not to keeping love on Matt Stafford, that it's not like Cooper Kupp all of a sudden became he's great and he's probably always been great, but Matthew Stafford has helped elevate him and that entire offense to a completely different level.
No
and so if
doubt.
you're going to talk about Cooper Kupp as an MVP, I agree.
It's they kind of cancel each other out there a little bit, just because the Rams weren't capable of this the last 5 years with Jared Goff. Now, Cooper Kupp, he might have been open on a lot of these plays, but he went, damn, the guy didn't throw him to me, or he threw me a wobbler that didn't get here. So yes, now he's got a guy that allows the offense to completely open up, let alone make some insane throws to him that add to these stats. But either way, phenomenal year by Cooper Kupp, and people got to give him more credit. And the fact of this physical specimen he is. I'm a little sick of hearing that line from guys on TV. Well, he's smart. No, I've seen Cooper Kupp in person. He's more than smart. He's big, he's fast as and he's quick as shut the up. He's talented. Why are we discrediting him? I don't know.
Yeah.
I know he's nerdy white guy slot receiver, but that doesn't mean he doesn't have talent. And I feel like that's kind of working against him.
Not that nerdy. I mean, he's got a pretty
cool.
good jawline.
I know.
He's cool, got a good jawline, and he's I don't
think he's nerdy either.
People are sleeping on Cooper Kupp.
Yeah, people are sleeping on him. I'm not sleeping on him. I feel like people are a little bit.
Breaking news, Chris.
What?
Breaking news. Not great. Bruce Arians says that Shaq Barrett has a sprained MCL and ACL.
Okay.
Hoping that he can be back for the playoffs.
Okay.
So another injury blow, perhaps, for Tampa.
Yeah. Week 16, 3 weeks to the wild card round. No, he won't be ready for that. But I think it's realistic to think divisional NFC Championship weekend, he could be there for that. And again, I'm not trying to be a doctor, but sprained ACL, MCL, again, I've had a lot of friends and teammates that have had it over the year. It's usually somewhere between a 3 to 6 week injury. So I'm kind of putting it at the 4 week mark that I think we can maybe see him back, or at least maybe he could be practicing to where he could be ready for the championship game. But that's That's not good. It's definitely not. As strong as this NFC is, and you don't know who you might be getting coming into town in week 1 in the wild card game. I mean, you could end up getting the damn 49ers coming into town. That would be tough. I mean, the 49ers they're one of those teams that are not going to be scared of the talent of the Bucs. They're going to go, wait, we're just as talented, or we think we're just as talented as you. And that's where they're going to need Shaq Barrett. So stinks for them, but they'll weather the storm. They still got a great team down there.
All right, we got more wild card hopefuls to talk about here in just a second. Not that the Bucs will be a wild card team; they got the division title wrapped up. But first, we want to talk about Under Armour a little more, Chris. Here,
yeah,
we are supported by Under Armour. Just like us, Under Armour wants to give you an edge, Chris.
They are focused on performing better and taking their game to the next level.
Everything from running shoes that propel you forward to hoop shoes that give you insane grip. They even make hoodies that reflect energy.
Damn, that's awesome. We're not just about the end result, winning or glory.
Yeah, Under Armour's about the hard work, the dedication, the cycle of training, competing, and recovering.
We give you advantages, but not shortcuts. The only way is through.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.